Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're gonna be a craftier person after watching this video. I can solve this bullying problem. Let me be clear, at no point did my kid assault another kid. A simple story and it still makes me smile a couple of years later. A little background. My ex is awesome. Her and I were just not meant for each other. She loves our son but she hates confrontation. She also works for the school board so she has to behave a certain way. I, on the other hand, have a tendency to scare people. I am a large person, and since I work in the trades, I do not have to look or act in any way whatsoever. This story. My son, who had been taking taekwondo for 4 years at that time, was being bullied at school. He did the right thing and told the teacher. I guess the bully was a relative in some way because she told my son not to be a tattletale. My son once again did the right thing and told his mother, who he lives with. I work in the oil field, so I'm not always in the city. She decided not to follow up because she doesn't want to stir the pot at work. My son called me and told me what happened. I talked to his mom and verified the story. I asked her why she hadn't done anything about the problem and she said that if I really cared I would do something. You want me to take care of this? Okay. Cue the malicious compliance. I made an appointment with the principal for my next week off. Myself and my son met with the principal and the teacher in question. I explained the situation and asked what was to be done. The principal said that this was the first he was hearing about it, but the teacher claimed that it did not happen. I then turned to my son and said, "The next time that kid bullies you, I give you permission to punch him in the throat." The principal and the teacher both looked at me like I was about to kill them. The principal said, "You can't say that." I asked, "Are you sure? Let me try again and find out. Hey boy, the next time that kid bullies you, you have my permission to punch him in the throat." "Holy crap, you were wrong, I can totally say that." The bullying stopped. I feel really sorry for this son. He's getting bullied at school and he tells the teacher, who does nothing, then his mother, who does nothing, and finally turns to his dad who takes ownership and gets it sorted. That dad is a hero and I bet the kid won't forget it. Encourage me to make my own decisions? Okay, bye! So for a little bit of pre-context, I used to go to the Mormon church every Sunday. My mom is super religious, while I am not. This happened a few months ago. For whatever reason, Mormon church makes teenagers attend seminary and young men's. Seminary is an hour lesson every morning before school, which is stupid, and young men's is an event every Wednesday night, or other day depending on the activity. Basically, I had to go to most seminary and young men events because of my mom. There's a bunch of things I disagree with what the church does, and I am mentally not in the church anymore. Quick example is that they take 10% of income as tithing, which is, again, stupid. Point is, they also take up a lot of your free time, demanding you contribute and invading your personal space if you refuse. I was tasked with a project in seminary and organising 3 events for young men's. Honestly, I planned a hiking trip and cross-country skiing and whatnot. When I got really busy with school, I stopped going to seminary, as I wanted an extra hour of sleep. Guess what? The church pestered me and harassed me for not going to seminary. Oh, it's so important. My ass, it's important. Blah blah blah, I didn't go to seminary and they continued to harass me. Come time, they start encouraging us to use our agency. They made a whole 3-hour-long service talking about agency and the importance of it. Agency, to my understanding, is the ability for an individual to make one's own decisions to find out the truth. They started saying this is a motivator to be more active in church and find stories that prove the church to be true, but I did the opposite. Cue malicious compliance. So instead of researching about why the church is true, I found out about why it's a whole goddamn corporate lie for money basically. I used my agency to find the real truth about the church. For my seminary project, I made a whole presentation about the negative aspects of the church and why we need to be more careful with what's happening. R/ex-Mormon, I thank you. I talked about Joseph Smith and his 30-something teenage wives, the hypocrisy in the church, and the amount of suicides and whatnot that came from the church. Then I left. They didn't have anything else planned for young men's. They invaded my house to try and get me to go back. They gave me calls to bring me back. It was pretty simple what I would say. I'm utilising my agency, please respect that. They didn't have young men's for a month because I wasn't there to organise anything else. Not only that, my presentation also encouraged other people, some of my acquaintances, to stop going to church too. It may not seem like a big deal, but this is a big church and bringing it down as much as I can brings me joy, especially after all the pain it's caused me. I'm glad to say that I've gotten my hour of sleep back, and now my Sunday is free for watching Endgame. Be careful what you wish for. So this happened today at work. I was passing by the customer service desk when one of the associates who worked the desk called me over. We'll call her Chill Girl, aka CG. "Hey, Lucky Glitchy, mind answering the phone for me? I'm rather busy right now." I happily comply, especially since she was the only one at the desk at the moment, releasing orders, dealing with returns, all that jazz. Lady on the phone. Hi, this is me from this place. Is there anyone who works at customer service I could speak to right now? I asked her to please hold while I get someone, put the phone on hold, and the first person I'd find for customer service was the head of it, and she is a serious witch. When I say witch, I mean like looking up the word in the dictionary would have her name listed under synonyms. Me. There's someone on the phone looking to speak to customer service. They're from this location. Unless you plan on taking the calls all on your own, don't bother answering it. Under any other circumstances, I'd have complied without a problem, but she said it in an extremely condescending tone. After the call was over, she said to me, unless you're here to offer assistance with heavy items or take out the garbage, I don't want to see you here, under any circumstances. I was about to object, but she interjected with, don't talk to me either unless you're asking about the things I listed. Important note, she's a witch primarily towards me, no one else. I had been dealing with this for a long time. So when I was on my way to punch out, I walked by service and saw her swamped, lots of people in line, and phones ringing off the hook. Lucky Glitchy, answer the phones please. I just stood there watching her in silence. Well, aren't you gonna help? I just shrugged. I know you love helping people, mind helping me? I shrugged again. Use your words. Sorry. You specifically said I should not come over to the service desk under any circumstances besides help with heavy items or taking garbage out. Plus you said not to answer the phone unless I can take the call myself. She gave me this look of defeat as I mockingly waved bye to her. I'll let you know if anything happens tomorrow. Guess we're just supposed to throw manners out the window now. Sorry if formatting is whack, I'm on mobile, but I'll try my best to make it easy on the eyes. This is gonna be one of those short but sweet stories. Anyways. For a bit of context, at my school there's this one door that's always locked from the inside. You can open it from the inside but not the outside. I'm assuming for security reasons as it's kind of in the back of campus. Plus my campus has like no fencing and there's a lot of random people who just wander on and off campus. Most people are aware of this and it's just common knowledge that if you see another student at the door, you go let him in. One day, probably a few months ago, I had to sit out in the hallway as a class I was in was going over a quiz they took that I wasn't there for. I was taking it the next day, so the teacher didn't want me to get all the answers. I was just kind of bored, so I was pacing, and I see a girl walking up to that eternally locked door. The doors are all glass, so I could see her coming from a ways. She was probably getting back from ditching a class or something, because usually it's more convenient to just, use the main entrance. I go to open it for her when she's like 5 feet from it, and when I do so, I got a reaction I wasn't expecting. Here it goes. I remember it pretty clearly, so not much if any is paraphrased. You do know I don't need you to hold the door for me, right? I can open it myself. I'm not letting you hold it for me. You sure? Don't be a sexist a-hole. Leave me alone. I'll open the door myself. Okay then. I just closed the door and stood there, watching her as she walked up to the door, tried to pull it open, and realized her mistake. She's been rude to me a few times for no reason, so I didn't particularly like her. I tried to hide the fact that I'm laughing a bit when another student opens the class door and tells me they're done going over the quiz and I can come back in. I just smile and wave at her. She's pounding on the door now and looks pissed. I'm not sure if someone let her in or she went to the front entrance, where she would have passed the front desk and been questioned as to why she didn't have a pass and wasn't in class. But I'm glad to know she got what was coming to her. Did not stay clocked in after your shift ends for any reason? Alright, sorry doc. Decided to post this after seeing a similar story here. I used to work in medical documentation in the ER. When I started, our shifts were aligned with a specific doctor's shift, so that each doctor would have a scribe to document the cases for the entire shift. This resulted in 12-hour shifts. However, at some point, corporate decided that too many workers were full-time, not part-time. They reduced our shift to 11 hours, so that 3 shifts would be 33 hours, not 36. This, understandably, annoyed the hell out of a lot of former full-time employees, who were now considered part-time, receiving no benefits. This also annoyed the hell out of the doctors, who were now left with a 1-hour gap with no coverage. As it was the ER, we could never really plan for patients coming in, so if a patient came in right as we were scheduled to leave, we tended to stay to help the doc out. We would stay until we had a gap in work, generally resulting in us staying over 30 minutes past our scheduled clock out time. This was not reducing costs as much as corporate had hoped, so they put pressure on our supervisor, who then put out an ultimatum. We had to clock out by 5 minutes after our shift ended. If we didn't, we would get a warning. After the 3rd time, we would be terminated for milking the clock. You can probably see where this is going. At 11 hours in, we began immediately clocking out and leaving, regardless of what was happening in the ER. 3 critical patients come in right at 10 hours and 55 minutes. Sorry doc, I can't document on them, I have to leave in 5 minutes. In the middle of a case when the clock hits 11 hours. Sorry, you'll have to finish this chart on your own, I have to clock out or I'll be fired. The doctors got annoyed by this rather quickly and asked why we were doing this. We told them honestly that our manager had mandated it. They then began emailing her en masse about the change. She was caught between corporate, who would not budge, and the doctors we basically worked for, who were not getting the coverage we needed. Eventually, she suggested we clock out but stay to finish up work. I unequivocally told her I would not work off the clock. Eventually, she agreed to allowing us to stay up to 15 minutes following our shift end. The docs were still annoyed about the 45 minutes of no coverage, and the scribes were still annoyed about being cut from full time. This is how it was when I left the company. I'm not sure if it's still going on, but I do know that I've decided to never again stay at a company when they alter hours in order to cut benefits. Honestly, that sounds like a lawsuit waiting to happen if a patient's chart isn't correct or is left unfinished. Yikes! So that's all for r/MaliciousCompliance. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Discord, Twitter, and Patreon links are in the description. Any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching.